What's up, War Poor family? Morning drop time. It's Tuesday, September 10th, and we're talking about Hugh Freeze's weekly press conference. My boy Charlie 5 is joining me. We're going to break down his comments. Guys, let's drop it on him.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. We're here, and we're talking Auburn football. Charlie, before we get started, man, I saw you at the game in the press box. How was your weekend after the game?
Oh man, a lot of rage, some tears, and then just licking my wounds, basically.
Yeah, well,
What about you?
Auburn was definitely licking their wounds after this one. It was an embarrassing loss for Hugh Freeze's squad on Saturday to Cal, who they beat last year out in California, but then lost this year here on the Plains. Good turnout for the game. The whiteout looked amazing, but the play on the field did not, particularly on offense. Yeah, Hugh Freeze had a lot to say. Now, in the post game, there weren't a lot of comments. I mean, it was the shortest post game I've ever been a part of, 5 minutes and 8 seconds. But they made up for this. It was nearly a 30-minute press conference. We pulled the clips that we think that you guys want to hear. So let's get started, man. He was asked a very straightforward question about whether he would commit to QB change. This is what he had to say.
New Mexico game.
Yeah, that's a I've always believed that. First of all, we aren't talented enough yet to play bad and win. And I know everybody doesn't want to hear that. But the way we're choosing to build this is to try to develop young men. And obviously, if you follow recruiting, we're starting to get our roster to be better. But we can't play poorly and win, particularly with 5 turnovers. And other good teams can't either, obviously, as you see across the nation. But we're not there yet, but we're going to get there. And I said it's going to take some patience, but not that you should be satisfied. Anyone should be satisfied with Saturday's performance. But we will get there to where we could possibly play poorly and still win. We're not there yet. The struggle with it's really hard to not play a young man, whether it's Payton or whoever else it is. It's really hard for me to not play a young man that consistently is the best performer in practice over and over and over and over again, and his execution of the offense, which has been pretty clear to all of us that throughout camp and throughout the practice weeks and everything, his performance and his understanding of what we want to do has been better.
It's really hard not to play the best practice player. Now, look, you and I have had this conversation over the years about, who looks best in practice. We are not in practice most of the time. They have open periods, but we don't really see much of anything during those periods. I think the conversation changes when you have actual game tape, though, Charlie. Like, should he be looking, even considering practice at this point, unless the other guys are just not getting it? Are they that bad in practice that he can't pull Payton Thorne?
It's tough, man. You could really see, you can almost feel the I guess I don't even want to call it frustration, but like the utter disbelief that I've got this guy that does literally, he can make every throw, he can make every check, make every read in practice, and I have yet to be able to figure out how to translate that to the game, because I know that if I could get that guy in the game, we could have a lot of success. And it's like I could feel that. I could feel that like I've sort of gotten to the point where I don't really know what else to do. And we're going to talk about some of the things he said he's going to do to remedy that. But I'm like you, man, at some point in time, we got to start looking at results on the field. And I get you don't want to, he said something a little bit later, you don't want to put out the message that practice doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But man, at some point in time, it's got to translate when the lights come on.
Yeah, I think that we've seen enough. Personally, and that's not me seeing bench Payton. I'm just saying you're not basing this on practice at this point with him. Now, I understand basing it on the other guys and what they're doing on practice, because you don't have a lot of game tape on them. So if they're not getting in practice, then you essentially have nowhere to turn. But it begs to question, was it the right decision to not chase a QB in the portal this offseason? Before we move on, thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's an interesting question, and it's interesting, and a lot of it's Hugh Freeze's fault is his messaging. We're going to ride with Payton Thorne, but they kind of did go after some guys. I mean, they really did try to get Riley Leonard, and they brought in Caden Salter in the spring, and his transfer, stuff wouldn't work out. They did try to get some guys, but I mean, Hugh said it out of himself. We're going to, instead of spending that $1 million, we're going to ride with Thorne. And I understand his reasoning. I don't know what players that would have cost us had you have gone after a Cam Ward and spent that $1 million. Does that make this 2025 class, does that hurt your 2025 recruiting class? Does that mean you can't bring in some of the guys like a Keandre Lambert-Smith? Could Cam Ward do it with just the freshman guys? Would you even be able to pay those freshman guys anymore?
Right.
Again, I think there's some guys we did go after, but I mean, Hugh Freeze did say it. He did say, we're not going to spend that money. We're going to build around Payton. And they did that. In my opinion, they did that. I think it's got great weapons. He's got great weapons. And I think he's got a serviceable offensive line, but he's just not that. He's not able to take it from the practice field to the stadium.
Yeah. I think it matters even more that it was Cal. And this wasn't like Georgia or Alabama on the road. Yeah, it was Cal. Free rotation. This is a term we've heard throughout the offseason and into the season, and it's in regards to the wide receiver play. Now, it was very, very, what I would say, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Cam Coleman heavy. As a matter of fact, from the game, I kind of posted the snaps, and it was shocking. Cam Coleman, 56 snaps. Keandre Lambert-Smith, 58 snaps. I think we can both agree Cam Coleman probably should have 55 snaps.
Yeah, one less.
Robert Lewis, 39 snaps. I don't think he played that much versus Alabama A&M. Sam Jackson, 4 snaps. Perry Thompson, 1 snap. Malcolm Simmons, 5 snaps. Camden Brown, 5 snaps. Probably should have had 6. Here's what he had to say about the free rotation at wide receiver.
Yeah, they've elevated themselves to those positions, but when you get as few as possessions as we had, that's not really the ideal plan. I think we have others in Perry and Malcolm and Sam and Caleb that also can perform at a high level in Camden, and you just didn't get it. We never got in any kind of rhythm to where you got a good rotation going with those guys, and so that is not. That's not the way we like to play a game with just those 3 getting the majority of the snaps. But it just was way too many 3 and outs, 1 and outs, where nobody was ever tired because we didn't have enough offensive snaps.
Charlie, I'm not sure I get we never got into a rhythm, and that's why these guys didn't play. Now, they looked a little 12 personnel heavy. For those of you at home that don't know, that's 2 wideouts, 2 tight ends, and a running back. There's no slot receiver on the field, so that eliminates the need for Sam Jackson or Malcolm Simmons at least. Perry Thompson with 1 snap. I kind of get what he's saying there. There weren't a lot of offensive possessions, so rotation wasn't maybe necessary on the outside. But focusing more on the slot guys, it felt like Malcolm Simmons could have helped there, maybe in the quick passing game, giving Payton Thorne some more options to throw to. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I thought that if you looked at Cal's game plan, I felt like that's kind of where Auburn should have gone. And I think I'm agreeing with you that I think Malcolm Simmons could have really helped in that quick passing game. But I will say this to Hugh's point. Yeah, I think you had 13 total drives. You have to check me on this, but I think this is correct. 13 total drive. 7 of those drives ended in like 3 plays or less, either a 3 and out or a turnover.
Correct.
So he's right where you go out there, you have a drive, you have 3 plays, and you come out and you go back in. Like, is there really a reason to get a rotation going? If you start getting first downs, then you can, run in different personnel, have different formations. But like, they literally couldn't do anything. Like they couldn't get first downs so that they even had a chance to sub, or they turn it over so fast that, I mean, you named some snap counts. You said, I think Robert Lewis played 39 snaps.
39 snaps.
That was pretty. That was close to all the snaps. I mean, we didn't play that many plays at all. I mean, you're talking about an offense that wants to run 60 to 70 plays, and there's just nothing going.
Yeah, Malcolm Simmons again. I that's the one that I question that stands out to me the most.
Me too.
Because, man, I'm going to get fried for this, but I'm not sure Robert Lewis is an SEC wide receiver. I'm not saying he played bad on Saturday, but is there a better guy in the room?
Is there a guy that can turn something out of nothing? I'm not sure he's that guy. I think he's more of a technical route runner, get to the sticks and sit down. And I think there was a lot of that to be taken. I think there was a lot of that for Payton to take, and he never could get it to him. But there's no, I don't see a lot of game changing ability like Malcolm was. He got in at the end of the game. They threw a little quick screen to him.
Yeah.
Like 10
11 yards like that.
Yeah.
Right?
11 yards like that. So
yeah. Where was that the whole game though?
Drive starter plays, man, to Malcolm Simmons. You started the game off with him last game, and then you didn't get him a ball at all. And the only ball you got to him, you threw it behind the line of scrimmage and you got 11 yards.
Which I asked about, by the way. Asked about Malcolm Simmons starting. He said that it was because they had a certain play called, but he played a lot in that game. Yeah. And he said, I don't care who goes out there first. But in this game, it seemed like it mattered who went out there first, because the guys who didn't never saw the field. And before we move on, I do want to point out one more play. There was a deep pass to Robert Lewis where he was clearly interfered with. I'm not sure he would have caught up to the ball anyway.
Fade. Yeah.
Right. But he was clearly interfered with. The ball landed like 2 to 3 yards in front of him. I'm not even sure that DB keeps up with Malcolm Simmons enough to interfere with him. No. He might have been gone past him and caught that one, and it house called it. And so that's where I question that rotation a little bit.
I'm with you. That's a play that you feel like if he gets in there and they run that exact same play and there's no safety over the top and they're able to scheme it just like they did, that's
he's gone.
That he's gone. I mean, it's 6.
Auburn did not run the ball a ton in the first half. As expected, Cal loaded the box, but they came out the second half trying to establish the run clearly. Here's what Hugh Freeze had to say about the run game.
We were effective in running it. I think we averaged 7 yards a rush, and the whole third quarter. I don't know if you remember it, but we started every possession inside the 2, but we were able both times to effectively run the ball out of there and then go to your base offense, and both times we turned it over and had wide open guys on both throws. And so should we just kept handing it off, and then they're giving you these throws? I don't think you can live like that, particularly in the games we have coming up. So you have to be balanced and kind of take what they give you, but we have to execute those give me throws, those give me plays. When we do that, one was a protection where you got hit, and then one was the tip pass off of a wide open slant route that was going to be probably an explosive play if we.
So now here's where I'm back to what he had to say about rhythm on offense. When you don't have any rhythm on offense, it's hard to do anything. Because you went heavy run, but they still did not respect the pass. So eventually you were going to have to pass it, and Auburn couldn't do that effectively. Jarquez Hunter had a notable fumble that led to 7 points. Now, Charlie, I called this game inexplicably 45-7, but I will say this: in my opinion, that defense really only gave up 7 points in that game. The offense didn't perform, but you have 14 points over turnovers, 1 being Jarquez. What do you think about the utilization of the run game here Saturday?
Again, I think a lot of it goes back to the rhythm. I think early in the game there was 3 carries for 3 yards. They weren't getting a ton going early, and then Hugh, I don't think he's making an excuse. I think he's just telling it like it is. Like, that damn punter was putting it inside the one over and over and over again, and they would run themselves out of it. You have to run there. They're able to get the push and run themselves out of it, and then something inexplicably would happen. There'd be a holding call or an interception or something like that. They would shoot themselves in the foot. I wish running would have been a bigger part of the game plan, maybe since the beginning of the year, because that's what Auburn does well. And I think maybe the pressure to feel like you have to throw it to make these receivers happy, to get these guys the ball, maybe has taken a little bit of your strength away, and that is running the ball like you did last year when you ran the ball when you couldn't throw. Now, if you can throw a little bit and still be able to pound the ball, it seems like it would open a lot more things up. I assume we're going to see a heavy dose of running moving forward.
Charlie, Hugh Freeze was asked about what he was disappointed with and where he felt like he hoped they would be further along. He had an interesting answer to this one, so here's what he had to say.
Us not executing the offense from the quarterback position, truthfully. We just didn't, I've got a reel of about 15 plays that it's just things we've got to get right and are typically done right in practice. And our coaching staff feels like maybe we attempted to carry too much because of all the different looks that they give you, which they do, and they did a good job with that. And instead of us just, man, this is who we are, and let's do what we know we can do, where there's a clear mind, clear head, and I assure you the package will not be big moving forward for this week, and so that we can get an accurate picture of, is this going to be a reoccurring theme where we have to make decisions? So we probably carried a bit too much, but we just missed some very simple things that keep us ahead of the chains and not in those third and longs, which we just can't live in.
Woo!
That's tough.
He said they had 15 plays that they want to take a look at. Payton Thorne had 27 throws in this game and only 14 completions. So if you had 15 plays, 55% of the pass plays didn't go as planned.
That's tough, man. Hey, but you know what? Dang,
I don't have words.
Hugh's kind of danged if you do, danged if you don't here. Like at one point in time, he got ripped on for defending, quote unquote, defending some of the interceptions, where he was basically just explaining the situation.
Right.
And then he says pretty aggressively that he felt like it was the execution from the quarterback position is what cost them the game, cost them the offensive drives. And now it's, hey, he's putting too much blame on Payton. It's like, we got to figure out which way we want to go here. But that's tough words right there, man. That's very eye-opening.
Charlie, Aaron Murray did a insanely good QB breakdown of Payton Thorne on his YouTube channel. If you're watching this, I encourage you to go over and look at it on his YouTube channel. It's called Snaps. It's on my Twitter. I posted a clip that went absolutely viral on Twitter yesterday. And in this, it was the interception where he got hit. Now, for us in the box, it was like, well, clearly he got hit, and that's why he threw the interception. But Aaron said, no, that ball should have been out like 2 seconds before he threw it, and then broke down. He's waiting on a guy to get to a spot instead of just throwing to the spot. And then he circled the safeties. He's like, they're gone. They're out of it. They're running the other direction. They're not going to make a play on the ball. The guys underneath are not going to make a play unless you make a really terrible throw. Just throw that thing to the hash, and that's a 30-yard gain.
I saw a tweet, and it was Trevor Lawrence. And I understand Payton is not Trevor Lawrence, but it was Trevor Lawrence this past Sunday, and he threw a touchdown pass. And they say, watch. The tweet was, watch when he releases this ball, where the receiver is. And he's nowhere near where that pass ends up. But it was the anticipation of Trevor of where this guy's going to be. And it seems like Thorne lacks that when things get tough. He lacks that anticipation of knowing where those guys want to be, and he wants to see them open before he lets it go. And when I first saw that, when I first saw that interception, I was like, well, my gosh, guys, he got hit. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
But then when you really go back and look at it, he held the ball and held the ball and held the ball. And the dude was open. I think it was Keandre Lambert-Smith was open for a very long time. It wasn't like he just flashed open. He was open for a long time.
Yeah. It was tough. Now, I just mentioned that he got hit. I got a question late in this and asked Hugh Freeze about pass protection and how that might affect his decision at QB. Here's what he had to say.
Coach, after the game, you alluded to offensive line play and pressure they gave up on Payton Thorne. What's the pivot offensively, particularly from the quarterback position, if line play doesn't improve? Or how much does that play into your decision about who to start at quarterback moving forward?
Well, that is one thing Payton gives you. He is the best mobile guy that we have that can extend the play with pressure. So that weighs in your mind also. But the key to that is I think we've done a good job pass protecting when it's not 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 12. And it was just way too many of those. We can't be in those situations. I don't know. There's probably a lot of lines that are going to struggle when it's when they able to get their rabbit personnel on the defense and 4 pass rushers and can add a 5th one to it and know you have to run routes to a certain depth to get a first down. It's very challenging, and so I think the key to us being a great pass protecting team is to stay out of those and need to stay in those 3rd and 5s.
What I really wanted to ask, and I was trying to find a way to ask it, was, do you have an offense that you can execute with this O-line with another quarterback? You know, are you stuck with Payton because he's the most mobile guy? And he gave the offensive line a reprieve and said, look, man, when we weren't in 3rd and long, where, they knew we had to wait for plays to develop, the line protected pretty well. What do you think about his comments here on the offensive line and their performance on Saturday?
I agree with him. I mean, with all the circumstances that were going on, with dudes being dinged up and hurt and having to come out and go back in, I know Payton took some shots. I know that up the middle, Connor Lew and those guys had a rough go pass blocking. But for the most part, I agree with him. I felt like in that particular play we just talked about, how long did he have to throw that ball? And that was one that ended up in a turnover. If you complete that could be the difference in the game. There was times where I felt like the offensive line struggled, but if you go back and look at it, I bet you he's right. I bet you it is when it's 3rd and long when you had those sacks. There may not have been much issues early in downs. I don't know that for a fact, but I kind of feel like he's probably right there. Again, I still go back to the video two videos ago. The issues with the offense was very little to do with the offensive line. It was very little to do with a lot other than unable to execute from the quarterback position.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was the most he's thrown Payton Thorne under the bus since he's been at
big
Auburn.
time.
Yeah, and I think that he senses the unrest in the fan base and maybe even with some of his superiors about, again, the decision to not go after a quarterback, stand behind Payton, proclaim loudly, I think with better pieces, he'll play better. And then to have this performance versus a team like Cal. So before we get out of here, what do you think, man? Do we see a quarterback change on Saturday? It sounds like he set it up to say Payton's going to have one more shot at this thing. I don't know if he can do anything against New Mexico that's going to change anybody's mind.
No, I mean, and if Payton probably would have a decent game against New Mexico because, that's the type of games that he excels in when there's not a lot of pressure on the line. But I think there's never been more of a openness to the possibility of a quarterback change happening than with the verbiage and whatnot that he used in this press conference and tonight on Tiger Talk. I mean, I don't necessarily expect a full switch for the very first snap of the game, but with the dumbing down, I hate saying that, with the condensing of the playbook And now you got Hank, who maybe the only reason he wasn't able to play is because he wasn't ready to grasp the whole playbook, didn't know the whole playbook. Now you sort of leveled the playing field on what they both can execute. I'll just say he better not slip up. He better not slip up because it seems like Hugh has sort of built this thing now, and he's open to the idea of moving away from him if he has to. I don't think Hugh can stomach another outing like that, where you see everything great in practice and then you go on the field, and when the time gets tough, you completely melt down.
Yeah, the problem I think they're facing is that Cal has woken them up to the possibility that if he doesn't play well, you could lose to a really, really bad team, and I don't think they can stomach another one of those losses.
No.
Look, yeah, should Auburn lose again, I want to remind you guys that this episode is brought to you by the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code FREEZE5. That's FREEZ5 to get 20% off your order at the Rogue Shop. Pain, sleep, stress, and especially anxiety. As an Auburn fan, the Rogue Shop has you covered. Other than that, guys, I want to thank the Autograph app for sponsoring this segment. Visit your phone's app store and download Autograph, your one-stop shop for all your team content, whether it's Charlie 5 and I on podcasts. That they gather all the stuff there, Charlie, for you. So you can go into one app and find all your team's content right there populated for you. Why go to 6 different websites to find all your content when you can do it with Autograph? Every article read and every podcast listen earns you points of fandom, which can be used for discounts on tickets to games. And unlike Ticketmaster and Vivid, no extra fees when you book your tickets through the Autograph app. So again, visit your phone's app store and download Autograph today. Look for this symbol that we have here on the screen. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Morning Drop. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow morning, but until then, we're out. War Eagle.
Drop!